It is the morning after the Crystal Palace defeat in pre-season 3-1. I'm regretting my choice of staying up and watching it, but we did have a few key takeaways from the game. And I think the reaction online has been a little bit mixed. So I wanted to give my balanced view of what happened throughout the 90 minutes, the first half compared to the second half, and what we can mainly take from that pre-season as learnings going into the final couple of weeks before the Premier League starts. So yeah, if you enjoy it, make sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and yeah, let's get into it. Let's start with the first half. It was much better than the second half. I think conceding after 26 seconds is always going to be a negative. It wasn't good enough defensively in that aspect. And yeah, Kufau in that situation for Mitchell's goal after 26 seconds wasn't good enough. And we're going to touch on individual players throughout. But to start, it really set a bad tone to start with. And you could see it kind of shook us up a little bit for the first 10, 15 minutes because we couldn't really get into the game much. I thought Crystal Palace started much better than us. We kept the ball well at times, but defensively we were just way too open. We were trying to press. I thought we pressed okay in the first kind of 10 minutes, but it wasn't good enough. And defensively we were so open. It was really easy for Crystal Palace to generate opportunities. They made 2, 3 or 4 really good clear-cut chances within that first 20-25 minute period, aside from the goal that they scored. So definitely work to do defensively. That was my main takeaway. You know, we started really poorly. We were conceding high quality chances. And Fabianski, to be fair to him, was forced into a couple of really high quality saves. And that's not what you want to see. We need to have that rigid structure. Again, the way we set up was slightly different because we were playing Cresswell, Kilman, Mavropanos, Kufau, but also Emerson slightly further forwards. And we had like a midfield three of Potts, Souček, Ward-Prowse with Kudus and Antonio. So it wasn't really a traditional 4-2-3-1 how we were playing. It was slightly altered, and there was a lack of pace in the team. That was very evident again. So for me, again, it was a poor start. But I thought we grew into the first half really well. I think our pressing was very good in the majority of that first half. We forced Crystal Palace into a lot of high turnovers, and it was working really well. They were struggling to play out. Definitely after the drinks break, around 25 minutes, we were much better in our press. You know, I thought Freddie Potts was kind of leading the press from the midfield side. Ward-Prowse, to be fair to him, was pressing at times as well, but yeah, it was good. That was the main takeaway from that first half, was that the pressing's getting slightly better each time. Still a lot of work to do, as we're going to go into Julian Lopetegui's post-match thoughts at the end. But yeah, it was good. It was promising signs in the press in that first half. I thought Antonio in particular led the line extremely well. He was one of the standout players for me in the preseason match last night against Crystal Palace. And as we saw, he got a very well clinically finished goal from it as well. You know, pressing, forcing the defenders into a mistake. Anderson, you know, misplaced his back pass. Antonio was straight onto it, alert to the situation, and composed finish to slot it around the goalkeeper, Henderson. And yeah, it was a really nice finish from Antonio, and absolutely deserved it, because in that first half he was fantastic and playing like a striker who has a point to prove, with potentially Fulcrook coming in as well. So yeah, first half, I think overall, it was much better than the second half, as we're going to get into. Antonio was excellent. Potts was really good. He was the only midfielder out of Souček and Ward-Prowse who was actually getting the ball on the half turn, looking to play between the lines. And also defensively, he was pretty good as well. And there was one occasion where we did set off the press and he managed to get the turnover in a very dangerous area in the final third. It didn't result into anything, but the intent was there. So you can tell Potts he definitely has the ability for me to play in this squad next season. I'd be keeping him 100%. Souček and Ward-Prowse, very disappointing. Really disappointing throughout the time they were on the pitch. And Kufau as well. I thought throughout his time on the pitch, especially in the first and second half, really, he was really poor in possession, poor out of possession, and yeah, just didn't look comfortable playing the way we wanted to play. So other than that, really, yeah, Mo Kudus looked very sharp. He looks very sharp, which is good, going, you know, 2 weeks out from our first Premier League match. And one thing about Kudus is he needs to get his head up at times and distribute the ball a little bit quicker. We know he's a fantastic dribbler and it's one of his best assets, and you never want to take that away from a player. But there are times where a simple 1-2 or a give and go or a switch of play, which he did well in the first half as well. I thought his passing was very good at when he did pass. But there are times where he'll keep his head down a little bit too long, where, again, I think his game would massively go up a level if he just improved that awareness slightly and started to play. But again, the options were lacking, to be honest. There weren't that many in the midfield to choose from. So I understand it in a sense. And again, it's just minutes in the tank in preseason. So yeah, first half was 1-1. Let's get into the second half breakdown. This video is sponsored by Emotive. Emotive provide cutting-edge digital services, solutions, and training to companies and businesses of all sizes. Emotive have worked with some fantastic brands in the past, as you can see behind me, the likes of Apple, Google, Tesco, and of course, Babylon Irons. Emotive offer 4 key services, the first being digital solutions, the second being professional training and coaching, the third being fractional experts, and the fourth being AI readiness. We're going to be working with Emotive on our channel to improve how we showcase the data to you guys in our breakdown videos and data analysis videos. If you want to find out more information about how Emotive can work with you, make sure to scan the QR code now, which will take you to emotivetouch.com, where you can find out more details about the company, and the link will be in the description. A massive thank you to Emotive once again for sponsoring this video, and let's get back to it. So for me, in the second half, we took Potts off for Aged. That was our only change at halftime to start the second half. It killed it for me. It killed the momentum that we were kind of gaining from the press. It killed the energy we had in the midfield. It gained the composure and control we had from a central midfielder for getting the ball in those spaces on the half turn. And because we effectively brought in another centre back, we transitioned into a very, very defensive outlook. You know, you've got Kufal, Mavropanos, Aged, Kilman, Cresswell, Emerson. They were all playing at the same time. And yeah, then you had a midfield of Souček and Ward-Prowse with Kudus, Antonio going forward. So for me, it was a really, really poor second half. I think first half showed a lot of promise. I thought our press was very good. We were looking a lot more coherent as the game went on. But second half, it kind of just went backwards. We got really, really sloppy in our passing. We kind of lost the identity of how we were trying to build up and play and press. And, you know, fatigue definitely set in, 100% fatigue set in. But we fatigued very, very quickly. I think when Guilherme came on, kind of halfway through the second half, he looked very sharp as well. He looked like a bright spark. Technically, I think he's well adapted to playing in the Premier League, and I think he'll be fine. I also think he offers us something slightly different on that right-hand side. I definitely think, for me personally, his best position is on that right-hand side. I don't want to see Guilherme on the left, really, for the type of player he is. But he came on and he did pretty well. In terms of the goals Crystal Palace scored in the second half, the first one came just after we made a couple of changes, like we took Antonio off for Marshall. Guilherme came on as well. And yeah, we just switched off. I think Emerson looked very, very fatigued. Cresswell just come off and Emerson slotted back a little bit deeper. And yeah, he didn't get out to the right-hand side quick enough to stop the cross from coming in. I think it was Ayew who crossed it. And then Mavropanos was beaten to his header way, way too easy by Schlupp, who is not tall at all. It was a really good header, to be fair to him, to kind of loop it over Fabianski behind him like that. But Mavropanos was not good enough. You have to be tighter in that situation to your man. You cannot let a player like Schlupp, who is very small, get to a header like that over you and loop it over your head and be reacting first to that situation. It's just not good enough. So defensively, we were just way too error prone. It wasn't good enough. And yeah, for the third goal, you would have all seen that one online anyway, but Kilman got turned way too easily. I thought Kilman had a mixed game yesterday, to be honest. I think he was pretty poor in a lot of aspects. I thought his awareness at times was really lacking. You know, he wasn't picking up players and shielding positions where he needs to. Personally, I still have reservations over Kilman as a £40 million signing. I want to see more. Obviously, there is a long, long way to go and a lot of football to play, and it's just pre-season. It's about minutes because Kilman has looked good in some pre-season games so far. But I need to see more from Kilman. I need to see why he's been brought in for £40 million. So I hope he proves me wrong and goes on to be an absolutely brilliant signing. I'm still questioning it personally. I think it's an upgrade on what we had because of Aged's lack of physicality, which again we saw yesterday. Aged was comfortable in possession when he came on the ball. When he first came on, that kind of went as the game went on. I thought he was pretty lax in terms of how he was in possession, gave the ball away far too easily. and their third goal came from again trying to clear the ball. It was just very lazily and laboured, and they blocked it really easily, and then Kilman had to try and defend Edouard, but got turned and they slotted it in for 3-1. But yeah, the main point I was trying to make was Kilman, Aged, Mavropanos, those three in the second half were error prone. They were not good enough. There was no synergy between them. They weren't picking up runners, and on the ball, they weren't good enough. To caveat that, the midfield options that they had between the lines were pretty non-existent because you had James Ward-Prowse and Souček. So we didn't have Potts kind of dropping deep and picking up the ball. Palace kind of figured that out pretty easily within the second half, started to press a lot more onto West Ham and, force us into mistakes like with a vice versa switch from the first half. So, yeah, I think overall we were very poor in the second half. We lacked any attacking threat as well. We didn't create any opportunities, really. The only one of note that I remember was Guilherme after a few nice passes, and his shot was just snatched wide on his right foot, just went far of the right hand post. But yeah, overall, first half and second half were very, very different performances. A, due to fatigue, B, due to personnel, and C, just mistakes, just individual mistakes, and Palace kind of identifying when we took Potts off that our midfield wasn't good enough technically to play through them. So I think there's a lot of work to do. I'm not going to sit here and say this is disaster. This is time to panic, because Lopetegui's been here, 2 or 3 months. There's still a lot of work to do. Yesterday, we didn't see Paqueta. We didn't see Bowen. We didn't see Alvarez. We haven't seen Somerville yet. We've got a couple more signings, 2 or 3 more signings, hopefully coming in. We didn't see Areola. So there's a lot of missing components from what we consider our starting 11 to come in. So for me, it's not panic. It's just we take the positives from it. I thought we pressed really well in the first half, but there's still a lot of work to do. And I think Lopetegui referred to that, which let's take a look at Lopetegui's post-match comments now, because they were interesting, and it's nice to see the refreshing approach of a manager who knows what's going on and he's communicating that with the fans. So we can see it here from his post-match reaction. I mean, the title of it alone was, "We have to progress, and we need to progress for sure." And, what Lopetegui was referring to was basically there's a lot of work to do. And you can see here in the bold way his quote started. Tonight was to show us that we have 15 days in front of us to keep on working very hard and try to evolve the players we have as soon as possible, and the new players too. But yeah, he's basically saying we have to improve on a lot of things. As you can see here, we have to improve on a lot of things. I think maybe more or less the same as the Wolves game. Until 60 minutes, we had been balancing the match, which again, we've kind of discussed here, which I agree with. Again, we have to analyze and ensure we are able to do better, to defend better, and don't concede easy goals. I think we have to change this. And he said, we're working hard, and we've worked very, very hard. So it's possible the legs were a little bit tired. They got a couple of days now until they go back to London. But yeah, you can see we've got one more friendly game, and Lopetegui is referring it to himself. He understands that there's a lot of work still to do. And it's pretty much in line with what we just said there. It was pretty balanced for the first half. The second half, we drifted off. Fatigue kind of set in, and Palace started to turn it up a gear on us, and yeah, we lost the upper hand. But still work to do. Lopetegui knows it. They've worked very hard. He's addressed that, but he also understands that they still need to continue to work hard. This is very, very early days into a new managerial era. He's had, as I mentioned, 2 or 3 months. There's still a lot of work to do. There's still time from now until Aston Villa as well. We've still got that one more preseason game in the Betway Cup next week. So I think that will be more telling if we can get the majority of our, first team players playing in that match and getting a settled first 11 to see roughly how we're going to line up against Aston Villa, because that's going to be a better indication of how we're going to perform, and the fitness levels and the way we want it, the intensity of our press, and how we can do that against Aston Villa. So plenty of work to do. This 3-1 defeat to Crystal Palace is by no means panic. It's by no means a shambles or a disgrace. It's minutes in the tank. It's areas we know we need to improve on. It's we take the positives away from what has been probably a very intense camp out in Florida. And I'm hoping the players have benefited from that, and their fitness levels are going to be a much higher position in 2 weeks' time when we start our Premier League campaign against Aston Villa. So yeah, what did you make of the pre-season match last night against Crystal Palace, if you watched it? Was there anything I didn't mention that impressed you? Is there anything you think we need to be a little bit concerned about or look out for? Let me know. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new around here, and until the next one, come on, you irons.